You this now. Grade 7 and 12 pupils will go back to school on the 1st of June. Basic Education Minister Angie Motshekga says all schools will be provided with water and face masks. Now, to get reaction on the announcement, we're joined by Sadtu's Mugwena Maluleke, the General Secretary of the Union. Mr. Maluleke, thanks very much for your time. Let's begin with what the Minister said yesterday. All indications are that the preconditions will be met, but there is this niggling issue of a new principle of just-in-time delivery. Are you satisfied?
Good morning, and thank you for having us. We are not satisfied as an organization that is monitoring the situation on the ground. We believe that the 1st of June is too early for what we have seen in the plans. We are not convinced that they will be able to meet all the preconditions as laid down by the COVID-19 regulations. The
assumption, Mr. Maluleke, is that your union is part and parcel of the discussions. In fact, there have been reports that the minister is in constant consultation. How many children will be allowed per class in order to maintain social distancing?
Well, I must correct that. Consultation does not mean that we agree on everything. We are being consulted. We are not part of the decision-making, and therefore we have made it very clear that some of the decisions that are being taken are top-down, and we do not appreciate that. So basically, the only way you can have social distancing in our situation is when you have got a maximum of 20 learners per class.
20 learners per class. Is that going to be maintained going forward? And I ask this because on the 1st, we're expecting grade 7s and grade 12s. Will that figure be maintained when the rest of the grades are phased in?
That class size rate will not be maintained. However, it has to be maintained because it is what it is required in terms of the COVID regulation. It is what is required in terms of the WHO regulations that when you reopen the schools, you must respect social distancing. And therefore, that is what the question must go back to the ministry and the Department of Education on whether they are really ready to be able to maintain that particular class size of 20 per class. Yeah.
Mr. Maluleke, there's also just information coming to me that suggests that the unions in the education sector have conducted a survey on the state of readiness. What does that survey tell you, or what has it told you, if indeed there is a survey that you have been conducting?
Yes, we have conducted the survey, and we're going to be publishing that particular survey later today or tomorrow. The survey tells us that 7 provinces are far from being ready in terms of the ablution system, facilities, in terms of water, that out of the 3,400, you still have about 64% of those that do not have water. Out of all the schools that have responded, we've got about 87% that says we don't have ablution facilities. So the survey tells us that the Western Cape and Gauteng are at least ready in terms of delivery of masks for the teachers and for the other workers, but not for the learners.
Mr. Maluleke, it's very interesting what you've just told me. So 7 provinces out of the 9 are certainly not ready in terms of all the key deliverables. What's the ideal time, therefore, according to this survey that you have conducted, for schools to reopen in a manner that is acceptable?
We need more than 2 months to be able to prepare thoroughly for all these particular things, so that we don't perpetuate the inequalities, so that when you use the standard of readiness, don't use the standard of Johannesburg or the standard of the Hood Bay in Cape Town. You need to use the standard of a rural school and say this particular rural school has got a tanker, has got water, has got ablution. So you need more than 2 months to be ready for this.
A final question to you, Mr. Maluleke. The minister yesterday was asked about the possibility of long hours that teachers may spend at school, and she quickly said, I will not discuss labor issues on this platform. I will talk to teacher unions. What is the status quo as far as that's concerned?
Yes, when it comes to issues of regulations that regulate workers' condition, those are the areas that must go to be debated at the level of the Education Labour Relations Council. Our teachers basically have always been working long hours, and therefore you can't add on top of that. You know that our teachers work over weekends, they work during the holidays, and therefore with this particular trauma and the fear that they have, you also do not want to overwork them, but also you don't want to start them having some anxiety around their families and so forth. So it's better to have time to plan all the things right so that you know how you spread the time in making sure that you do not overwork the teachers.
Yeah. A quick one, Mr. Maluleke. I know that we were supposed to wrap, but this final question, very, very key. In your survey, the teachers that have underlying issues and also in terms of age, how many teachers do you have that are possibly over the age of 60 that could possibly be returning? And I ask this because of their vulnerability at this time.
I must indicate that the survey in terms of the comorbidities is not clear as yet, because this is a survey that we sent to the principals to be able to say to us. However, in terms of the age cohort, you are having about 34% of people who are above 60%, 60 and above. So it's almost, 34% according to the survey is 60. And therefore, you'll then have about 15% of different kind of morbidities like your heart diseases, your asthma. It will be almost like in terms of the national rate where you have got between 9 and 15%.
Mugwena Maluleke, thank you very much for your time, sir, the General Secretary of Teachers Union, Sadtu.